So let's talk about organizational structure. How many people in the room are an S-Corp? We have one S-Corp, two S-Corps, okay. How many are LLCs? And how many are C-Corps? Okay. The reason I bring it up, especially for the S-Corps, S-Corps are tough. If you are not a US citizen, if you are not a resident alien, you cannot own shares in an S-Corp. If you do, you've automatically violated the IRS's S-Corp status. If you have an investor who is a single member LLC, you have automatically violated the S-Corp status. If you have a multiple member LLC, but they didn't check the little box on their tax return saying they'll be taxed as a corporation, you have automatically violated your S-Corp status. There are no appeals with the IRS. You can't say, oops, we made a mistake. What winds up happening with the S-Corps is almost overnight, all the losses that you're incurring as a startup become trapped. And the reason I bring this up is, and oh, by the way, you can't have a C-Corp as an investor in an S-Corp. You violate your S-Corp status. The LLC brings a lot more flexibility. The S-Corp status and the LLC status have a lot of the same tax advantages. I just happen to like the LLC a lot better for startups. But there's nothing wrong with an S-Corp as long as you monitor who your shareholders are. And if you remember, you know, as a startup, you tend to use your shares sometimes as currency. You don't have a lot of cash to pay people for services. So you hand them out some shares of stock for their service. LLCs, you can distribute profits not based on membership interests. You might own 80% of the LLC, and the guy who owns 20% gets 80% of the profits. What dictates who gets what out of an LLC is the organizational documents, not the fact that you own 80%. And so there's a beauty in that. With an S-Corp and with a C-Corp, if I get a dividend, you get a dividend. It's all pro rata and it's legal. With an LLC, you can do what you want. Board of Directors versus Board of Advisors. There are some real key points here. I'm sure you guys know that one is obviously has legal ramifications and one does not. Board of Advisors, absolutely love them if they're utilized well. 90% of the people out there don't utilize them well. If you go out and you hire good advisors, use them. Have an agenda, have meetings, have follow-ons. If you're not going to utilize them, don't waste their time, and quite frankly, they shouldn't waste yours by signing on to be an advisor of your company if you're not going to utilize them. Board of Directors, on the other hand, there's a legal requirement here, duty of care, duty of loyalty. If you violate the duty of care, you can be indemnified. You've all read your organizational documents. There's an indemnification provision in there for officers. You cannot be indemnified for a breach of the duty of loyalty. So even if you have director and officers insurance, even if your agreement says you can be indemnified, by law you cannot be. And this is the one where a lot of people get into trouble when you sit on multiple boards. You get to see things. You get to see acquisitions that the company is looking at and the company decides to pass, and you say, oh, maybe I'll go out and buy that. You can't use any knowledge that you've gained from this company for your personal wealth. And so sitting on boards, there's a real duty to the company itself, not to the CEO who may have brought you on or to the board governance committee who went out and found you. Your duty, once you take that requirement, is to the corporation itself, not to yourself or to some individual. So on the duty of care, the way to show that you are exercising your duty of care is to inform yourself. Board wants to make a decision, or management's asking the board to make a decision. If you don't know, you can't make the decision. So you got to bring in the experts, and it's not always management as the expert. Sometimes you got to go out and find independent experts to educate the board. If you're not going to do this, you're putting yourself at risk, you're putting the company at risk. And that's why there's a lot of independent advisors that advise boards of directors. If you don't have the time, don't take it. There's an ego associated with it. And I've sat on, I don't know, 5 or 6 boards now, and I'm currently on 2. And the first time you're invited to sit on a board, you know, oh, this was really cool, and there's a little bit of an ego associated with it. Over time, if you take it seriously and you go get educated, and trust me, only about 35% of the publicly traded companies in this country mandate that their boards get educated on the law and on board governance. Only 35%. So there's not a lot of people that take this very seriously, in my opinion. To me, the golden rule is if you don't have the time, don't serve. If you're not going to put the time in, don't serve.